The night air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of gasoline and the distant hum of the highway. I stood by my car at the gas station, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered, casting an eerie glow on the concrete. I checked my phone again, the screen illuminating my face with a soft blue light. Jamal was late, or maybe I was just too early, too eager. I glanced around, taking in the mundane surroundings, the soda machine with its peeling stickers, the cashier engrossed in a magazine, the occasional car pulling in for a quick fill-up. It was all so ordinary, yet tonight, it felt like the setting for something extraordinary. My fingers nervously played with the hem of my jacket, my mind racing with what-ifs and maybes. Then, I saw him. Jamal stepped out of his sleek, black car, his presence commanding the space around him. His smile was just as I remembered from his profile, wide and inviting, promising a world beyond the confines of my routine life. He approached with a confident stride, his eyes locking onto mine, sending a shiver down my spine. "Hey, Victoria," he said, his voice smooth like velvet. "You look even better in person." I felt a flush of warmth spread through me, a mix of excitement and guilt. "Thanks, Jamal. It's good to meet you too." We stood there for a moment, the silence between us charged with unspoken possibilities. The air seemed to crackle with the electricity of our first real encounter. "So, what brings you to this part of town?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed my anticipation. Jamal leaned against his car, looking at me with a thoughtful expression. The day of the meeting arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. I told Michael I was meeting an old friend for coffee, a lie that tasted bitter on my tongue. The gas station was just off the highway, a place where people came and went, their lives intersecting for mere moments. I parked my car, my heart pounding in my chest as I waited. Jamal arrived in a sleek, black car, his presence commanding even from a distance. He approached with a confident stride, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. He greeted me with a warm, enveloping hug, his lips brushing against my neck in a greeting that felt both intimate and forbidden. I hesitated, caught between the thrill of his touch and the weight of my conscience. The warmth of his embrace was tempting, pulling me towards a world where my desires could run free, unchained by the commitments I had made. But the reality of my situation, the life I had built with Michael, tugged at me with equal force. I gently pulled back, my hands resting on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "Jamal," I whispered, my voice a mix of longing and restraint, "we need to be careful." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, understanding the conflict within. "I know, Victoria. But sometimes, the heart wants what it wants," he said, his voice low, resonating with a depth of emotion that made my resolve waver. The air around us was charged, the tension palpable. I could feel the pull of the unknown, the allure of something new and thrilling, yet the gravity of my choices held me back. I just need some time to think." The hug lingered, and something shifted within me. It was as if a part of me, long dormant, awakened with a hunger I hadn't known I possessed. Jamal's touch was electric, his voice a soothing balm to my restless soul. We talked, but the conversation was secondary to the magnetic pull between us. Then, without warning, Jamal's lips found mine in a kiss that was both gentle and demanding. The world around us seemed to blur, the sounds of the gas station fading into a distant hum. My body responded before my mind could protest, and in that moment, I kissed him back, fully aware of the people around us, yet utterly lost in the sensation. His hands moved to my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt the heat of his body against mine. The kiss deepened, a silent promise of passion and forbidden desires. My heart raced, not just from the thrill of the kiss, but from the realization of what I was doing. I knew I should stop, that this was crossing a line I had promised myself I wouldn't cross. But the allure of the moment, the intensity of our connection, made it hard to pull away. Jamal's fingers traced the line of my jaw, sending shivers down my spine. His touch was like a spark igniting a fire I had kept under control for so long. Victoria, he murmured against my lips, his voice thick with emotion, let's not think about anything else right now. His words were like a spell, tempting me to surrender to the moment. The rational part of my mind screamed for caution, for loyalty to Michael, for the life I had built. But the part of me that had been starved for this kind of connection, for this raw, unfiltered passion, was louder. I pulled back slightly, my breath coming in short gasps. Jamal, we can't, this isn't right, I managed to say, though my body betrayed my words by leaning into him once more. He looked into my eyes, his gaze intense, searching. I know, but sometimes, the heart wants what it wants, he repeated, his voice a whisper that seemed to echo my own desires back to me. The kiss deepened, and my hands found their way into Jamal's hair, pulling him closer. The reality of what was happening hit me like a cold wave, but instead of pulling away, I felt an urge to go further. Jamal led me to his car, the tinted windows offering a semblance of privacy. Inside, the world outside ceased to exist. We didn't speak, words were unnecessary. Our actions spoke volumes as we explored each other with a fervor that was both shocking and exhilarating. The car rocked slightly with our movements, and I was dimly aware of the occasional glance from passers-by, but it only seemed to fuel the intensity of our encounter. The heat between us was palpable, the air thick with the scent of our desire. Jamal's touch was like fire, igniting every nerve in my body. His hands roamed, tracing the contours of my body, sending waves of pleasure through me. I could feel the line I was crossing, the boundary I was shattering, but in that moment, it felt like the only right thing to do. The car's leather seats creaked under our weight, the sound mingling with our heavy breathing. Each touch, each kiss, was a silent declaration of our mutual longing, a dance of shadows and whispers in the dim light. My heart pounded, not just with the thrill of the forbidden, but with the fear of what this might mean for my life with Michael. As we moved together, the world outside blurred into insignificance. The occasional car horn or distant shout from the gas station seemed like echoes from another universe. Here, in this cocoon of tinted glass and leather, there was only Jamal and me, lost in a moment that felt like it could last forever. But even as we reached the peak of our passion, a part of me knew this couldn't last. The reality of my choices loomed large, a dark cloud over the bright, burning flame of our desire. What would be the consequence of this reckless abandon? Would Victoria's secret remain hidden? As the intensity ebbed, I lay back, my breath ragged, my mind racing. Jamal's fingers gently traced circles on my skin, his touch now soothing rather than igniting. We lay there, the silence between us filled with the weight of our actions. The thrill was intoxicating, but the guilt was a heavy cloak around my shoulders. As we lay there, catching our breath, the reality of what I had done settled in. I had cheated on Michael, not just in a secluded corner but in a public space, where anyone could have seen us. The thrill was intoxicating, but the guilt was a heavy cloak around my shoulders. Jamal looked at me, his expression unreadable. "You're beautiful, Victoria," he whispered, his voice a mix of admiration and concern. I nodded, unable to speak, my mind racing with the implications of my actions. The silence stretched on, each second feeling like an eternity. I could hear the distant hum of the highway, the occasional car door slamming, but inside this car, it was just the two of us, enveloped in the aftermath of our passion. I need to go, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. The words felt like a betrayal to the moment we had just shared, but the reality of my life with Michael was like a vice around my heart. Jamal's hand paused on my arm, his touch gentle. "Do you regret this?" he asked, his voice soft, almost afraid of the answer. I turned to look at him, his face illuminated by the dim light filtering through the tinted windows. "I don't know," I admitted. It was incredible, but it's not just about us. There's Michael, there's my life, everything I built." He nodded slowly, his gaze dropping to the seat between us. "I understand. But Victoria, remember, this was real. What we felt, what we shared, that was real." I swallowed hard, the truth of his words hitting me like a physical blow. "I know," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. "But I need to think." I need to figure out what this means for me, for us. He reached out, his fingers brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, he said, his voice steady, a promise that hung heavily in the air, fraught with uncertainty. I left the gas station with a promise to meet Jamal again, a promise that felt like both a lifeline and a noose. Driving home, the weight of my secret was palpable. Michael greeted me with his usual warmth, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. That night, as I lay beside Michael, I felt the chasm between us widen. I hadn't told him anything, and each day that passed, the lie grew heavier. The thrill of the affair was undeniable, but so was the guilt. I was living a double life, one part of me craving the excitement, the other mourning the betrayal of my vows. The days turned into weeks, and my encounters with Jamal became a secret routine. Each meeting was a dance of shadows, a thrilling escape from the reality I knew. But with every stolen moment, the guilt gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the life I was betraying. One evening, as Michael and I sat down for dinner, he looked at me with a concern that pierced through my facade. You've been distant lately, Victoria. Is everything okay? His voice was gentle, yet it felt like an accusation, a spotlight on my deception. I forced a smile, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. I'm just tired, Michael. Work has been overwhelming. The words felt hollow, even to my own ears. The next day, I met Jamal at a secluded park. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that mirrored the ones in my heart. We walked in silence for a while, the tension between us thick with unspoken questions. Victoria, Jamal finally said, his voice breaking the quiet, what we're doing, it's not just a fling for me. I care about you. His words hit me like a wave, stirring emotions I had tried to keep at bay. I know, Jamal. And I care about you too, but it's tearing me apart. I love Michael, but I can't deny what I feel for you. He stopped walking, turning to face me, his eyes searching mine. Then what do we do? Do we keep pretending, or do we face what's real? The question hung in the air, demanding an answer I wasn't ready to give. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.